Hello there everyone, I'm UXW Bill, welcoming you to another highly exciting episode of UXW Bill's Goofy Gadgets Corner, and today I present for your consideration this tapeless ultrasonic measuring device. This was actually something that I won many years ago at a local and now long since defunct pizza restaurant. It was actually bundled with a brand new in-box laser level that I've never even so much as taken out of the box because I haven't had any great need to. I have a perfectly good spirit level that does everything I could want. I suppose that if I ever do take the laser level out of its box, that we'll have another episode of UXW Bill's Goofy Gadgets Corner. Now, while the laser level itself certainly seemed to be brand new, if we take a closer look at this, you'll see that it looks to have been around the block a few times. My guess is that this was probably someone's garage sale reject, and their way of re-gifting it was to submit it to that contest to be offered as a prize. Anyway, not long after I won the contest, took this home, put a battery in it, and was goofing around with it around the house, and then one day I made the mistake of taking it with me in the keykeeper's big brown piece of junk, at which point I never saw it again. But about a month ago, the keykeeper asked me to come over and clean his house, and while I was going through all the junk that he keeps on the stairs, because believe me, the bacheloritis is strong with that boy, I rediscovered my long-lost tapeless sonic measure, and I figured before I had the opportunity to lose it again that I probably ought to go ahead and make a video about it. So let's take a look inside the box and see what you get. Thankfully, the previous owner of this thing was thoughtful and courteous enough to repackage it with everything that it came with, including the operating instructions. Now, not long after I happened to lose this thing, I did go out to eBay and make a very half-hearted effort to find another one. But all I ever came across were functionally similar but appearance-wise quite different devices offered by many friendly sellers from the Pacific Rim. Perhaps if I'd have remembered any more about who made this unit or its model number or anything along those lines, I would have come across it eventually. Maybe I would have come across it eventually just by virtue of dumb luck. But I wasn't that dedicated, and so I never did end up finding another one, which is probably just as well, although it would have led to my finding it sooner. Since my life is a comedy, and I'm pretty sure there's some law that requires this somewhere, if I would have purchased one of these on eBay, I would have found the original one in like 5 milliseconds after clicking the Buy It Now button. But let's go ahead and take it open and see what you get. There's the ultrasonic measuring unit itself. And there is a particular reason why, if I had sought out a replacement for this, that this is the particular model I wanted. You'll probably think it's silly when I tell you, but we'll get into that soon enough. Here are the operating instructions. This was sold under the One World brand. I believe this company is still around. This is only a quick guide, but it talks about all the various functions of this thing because it is more than just an ultrasonic measuring device. And of course, there's more than just one language in here. If you're interested in reading any of these, assuming that they don't get eaten by the video compression and encoding process, you can certainly pause the video at any time to do so. That way, if you happen to have one of these and you're wondering how to operate it, you'll be able to do so. It has several different modes of operation. Not only can you take plain old measurements with it, you can also use it to calculate, I'll get it right eventually, you can use it to calculate not only the area, but I believe also the volume of a room up to its measurement limits, which, as we'll see, are certainly present, but I don't think they're particularly crippling for a lot of uses, assuming this thing is accurate, and that's something we'll be putting to the test as well. Other functionality includes a thermometer, which is actually included by necessity because changes in temperature will change the behavior of the ultrasonic waves emitted by this thing. So they just brought it out so that you and I could see it. And there's also a clock as well. And now here's the reason why I wanted to find this exact model. It's purely the display, folks. Take a look at that. It's a backlit LCD of a type that's not particularly common. If you look carefully at it, assuming it doesn't automatically power off, you can see all the segments that are in there. I believe they're all used for some function or another in this thing. There's the temperature mode. There's the clock. I believe it can be set to keep both 24 and 12-hour time. And I swear I'm going to punish this Handycam if it doesn't learn to focus. Probably have to buy a replacement camcorder at some point in the future. But there's the measuring mode, which right now is completely blank. But if I push the measurement button, it makes a noise that sounds not unlike a fart, and then moments later, provided you haven't exceeded its capabilities or tried to measure something too close, which is also a limitation, it tells you exactly how far away the item you measured was. I'm just pointing it at the wall on the other side of my bed, and I'd say that 4 feet 7 inches is probably pretty close, and the results are fairly repeatable, which bodes well for the accuracy of this unit. Accuracy, now there's a good thing to check. Let's go ahead and try it out and see how this thing does, to see if it really is something that will be consigned forevermore to the status of a simple goofy gadget, or if this thing might actually happen to be useful. Before we do that though, I will mention that you can turn the sensing head on it, so if you need to set it down against a wall to make a more accurate measurement, you can certainly do so. Also want to point out that while I put a cheap dollar store 9-volt alkaline battery in here, this is the battery that was in it. This was the battery I put in it not long after buying it. It expired clear back in, let's see, I know there's a date on here, 2015. But it's still going like gangbusters, working perfectly well, and more importantly than that, it hasn't leaked. And here we are in the kitchen to perform our accuracy tests. What you're actually looking at right now is the rear wall of the kitchen, and that line you see running down almost the middle of the frame is actually the outline of the chimney stack at the rear wall of the kitchen. In order to ascertain how accurate this ultrasonic measurement device is, I am going to employ a very high-tech instrument known as a yardstick. Yes, indeed, folks. I apologize to anyone who prefers the metric units of measurement, but here in the United States, for better or worse, we still use the imperial units in the majority of things that we do. Anyway, in order to find out how accurate this thing is, we're just going to go back here to the end of the wall and put that level with the wall. Hopefully you can actually see that on camera. I don't want to get too close to that chimney stack because I don't know how the sound waves from this thing might fan out, and I don't want to unfairly force it to produce an inaccurate result. So go ahead and turn it on, and we'll line it up right level with the yardstick here. We'll push the button, and it says error. Okay, there we go. Now we got a valid measurement out of it. It's about 4 3/4 inches optimistic. This is only 36 inches, but I'd say that's certainly close enough for a rough estimate. That does tell me that you probably wouldn't want to use this thing anywhere that a precise measurement is critical. It's only good for giving you a rough idea of what the measurements in your room or other area happen to be. And if you want to know for sure, you'd better get out a measuring tape and do things the old-fashioned way. So here we are now set up in the dining room to perform yet another accuracy test, this one over a considerably longer distance than the first. As I'm sure you can clearly see, I've set up a conventional measuring tape on the floor, pulled it out to 11 feet, which should be well within this thing's capabilities. And now we'll just see how it compares. I'll get down there and line up with it and we'll just try it out. Right at the 11-foot mark. That was way off then. But the second time's the charm. It's reading within about 6 inches of the correct value. From the wall that you're looking at right now, all the way to the bottom of the staircase, it is 19 feet. This is a test that ought to be considerably meaner to this ultrasonic tapeless measure. Go ahead and turn it on. Line myself up with the handrail. And it actually gave a fairly plausible result. It's reading almost 3 feet too much, but again, for the sake of approximation, it'll work fine. As I mentioned previously, this ultrasonic measure does make a human audible noise. At least I can hear it standing right next to it. I have noticed that the noise it makes changes depending upon how near or far away you are from an object. Most notably, it changes in pitch And I suspect that there are one of two reasons for this. Either it's performing some kind of a ranging test before it takes the actual measurement to determine how much audible power it needs to use to get a satisfactory echo bouncing off of the surface that you intend to measure, or it has something to do with the nature of the sound waves spreading out. I would say it's probably the latter. I have no idea what will happen if I point this thing at the camera and press the measurement button, but headphone users might want to consider themselves forewarned to adjust the volume rather radically downward in case the camera's audio processing does not deal well with this. I have no idea what actual frequency this thing is using. Listen carefully and I think you'll hear the effect that I'm talking about as I bring it up close to the ceiling here and then take it further away. And further away still. That last noise was particularly different from all the others, which may mean it's actually a combination of both theories that I'm working with. So now that I've spent some time playing around with this thing and demonstrating it with those of you here on YouTube watching, I've come to the conclusion that while this thing is a great deal of fun, that's really about all it is. It's nothing like accurate enough to make any kind of a critical decision about building or remodeling anything in a room or accurately measuring any distance for any other kind of purpose. So ultimately I have to say that while it is fun to play around with this thing, and I think it's got a neat looking display, it is just a goofy gadget. So thank you as always for watching. I certainly do appreciate it. And as always, I look forward to hearing your constructive commentary.